Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
Hi, this is Captain Joe Pernesti from the Elyria, Ohio Fire Department, and you're listening to Dr. Richard B. Gasaway on SA Matters Radio. His mission is simple. He wants us to see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. If you're a firefighter, an officer, a chief, this is one training podcast you want to listen to every week.
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid the bad outcomes. I want to start off by offering my sincere appreciation to Midwest Fire for signing on to be the sponsor of the SA Matters radio show for the entire year of 2015. It's a really big deal because it allows me to have a support team to ensure that you get the weekly episodes on time and for free. I also want to thank Midwest Fire for sponsoring a giveaway of one of my programs last year at the FDIC in Indianapolis. The winner, Loveland Fire and Rescue Authority in Colorado, is scheduled to have a full-day situational awareness seminar on Saturday, March 14th, funded 100% by Midwest Fire. Gestures like this speak volumes to Midwest Fire's commitment not only to build great fire trucks, but also for their passion for improving firefighter safety. In case you missed the big announcement, the new website is launched. I'm working out a couple little bugs, but it's up and running, and I'd like your feedback. Feel free to click on the Contact Us link and send me your feedback on what you like or what we might be able to even improve still yet on the website. If you visit it, you notice there's a blog roll down the left side, and the podcast episodes are in the middle. You should be able to see that there's easier access to the content in the store, some mini courses that are going to be coming up soon, some information about live events. There's a little blue box on the right side to click on to see the upcoming events, a couple of testimonials, and a red box on the right side where you can sign up to become a member of the SA Matters community. I'm coming to you today from San Diego, California, where I'm in town presenting two programs for the Firehouse World Conference. Last week I was in Denver, and I forgot to bring along my regular podcast recording microphone, so I recorded an episode with a built-in microphone on my MacBook. I know the quality wasn't the best, and I apologize for that, but I didn't make that mistake twice, and I brought that mic along with me this week. I've been getting some really nice feedback about the radio show. Thank you for that, and I sincerely appreciate everyone who takes the time to go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and subscribe and to leave your feedback. And if you like the show, leave a 5-star review. It really inspires me when you do that as well. I'm working hard to recruit some new members to the SA Matters community of learners, and I'd like you to be a member if you're not already. You can join for free. There are over 5,000 members sharing ideas on how to improve situational awareness and how to make better decisions under stress. If you're interested in joining the SA Matters community, you can go to samatters.com, click on that red box on the right side of the homepage, and you get a couple of bonuses. One, you get my special report that I created called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. And you get my newsletter, which comes once a month, where I'm just advancing messages that are about the SA Matters mission. In celebration of the 3-year anniversary of SA Matters, coming soon, I'm going to also be sending out some video mini courses to the members as a way of saying thank you for coming along with me for the ride. You might want to make sure that support at Rich Gasaway is on your safe sender list. That way, if you get the emails that contain video links, it won't go to your junk mail folder, and you'll be able to get those and view them and share them. If you're not a member yet, head over to SA Matters website, click on the red box, and sign up. It's free. I want to remind you that every episode of the radio show, there's also a corresponding show notes page on the SA Matters website. To access the show notes, just go to samatters.com/ and then enter the episode number, which I always mention at the beginning of the show. So, for example, this is episode 41. So if you open the browser and put up samatters.com/41, it'll take you to a page. It contains a link to the episode, so you can either play it right there on your desktop, or you can access the show notes, and it contains what the takeaways are for the episode, and some pictures, and if there's an opportunity, some video or audio. If I'm doing a close call and they've got some video or audio, you can also leave your feedback on the episode as well at the bottom of the show notes page. I'd like to thank those who hosted some recent programs of the SA Matters live tour event. Recently I did a program for the Minnesota Rural Electric Association electric line workers. There were more than 200 line workers in attendance, and the feedback was awesome, and thanks for that. If you're employed in an industry where workers make high-risk, high-consequence decisions, an SA Matters program may help improve the safety of your team, contact me for more details and some program options, and you can just do that right through the website. And, of course, I'm coming to you today from Firehouse World in San Diego, and thanks to Firehouse Editor-in-Chief Tim Sendelbach for the opportunity to be here and to contribute my message to the attendees of the conference here. Some upcoming events. We will, February 22nd, be at Gallatin County Emergency Management Agency in Montana. February 27th, the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs in Midland, Michigan. February 28 and March 1, a company officer development program in Terre Haute, Indiana. March 2 to 6, a company officer development program in Indianapolis Airport Fire Department in Indianapolis, Indiana. Then March 7th and 8th, back in Terre Haute for part 2 of their company officer development program. March 10th, the Idaho Department of Lands is hosting a wildland management conference, and I will be keynoting there in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. March 12th, the 33rd Annual Emergency Services Conference in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and I'll be doing the pre-conference, full-day pre-conference there. March 14-15, the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority in Colorado will be hosting the program that I mentioned earlier that was sponsored by Midwest Fire. March 20, the Center for Public Safety Excellence Conference in Orlando. I'll be giving a presentation there. March 21 and 22, the Chester County Department of Emergency Services in Pennsylvania will be hosting Dave Dotson and I on a joint program of situational awareness and reading smoke. March 24th at the Hershey Fire Department in Hershey, Pennsylvania. March 25th, the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute National Fire Service Staff and Command Program. As you can see, the popularity of the SA Matters mission and message is growing, and I'm extremely grateful. There are a few things in life that are as humbling as standing before a room of 100 first responders and know that they have been inspired to hear my message because they want some tangible, immediately usable situational awareness best practices that will improve their safety. Thank you. The list of program dates and venues are located on the SA Matters website. Just click on that blue tab on the right side that says events or upcoming events. And check back often because they're updated frequently. And here's hoping that I'll be conducting a program near you and we can meet up. And if you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us link on the website. If you want to get connected with me on social media, you can follow @Rich Gasaway or @SA Matters on Twitter. On those feeds, I share out messages related to safety and occasionally some interesting tidbits about my personal life or about my travel or my family. And what you're getting on Twitter is genuinely 100% authentically me, warts and all. All my Twitter's posts are appropriate for all audiences, and if anybody posts anything on my feed that is offensive or vulgar, that will be blocked. So you can rest assured that what you're getting is going to be clean, wholesome, and hopefully useful content. And thank you to the more than 13,000 who have connected and engaged with me on Twitter. You can also get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page, or get connected with me on LinkedIn. And thanks to the more than 8,000 who have done that and connected with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Also, on a side note, I'd like to thank the more than 4,000 endorsements and recommendations. I'm really humbled and sincerely appreciative of the faith that you have in my mission and my message. In this episode, I interview Santa Clara County Deputy Fire Chief Steve Prziborowski, Contra Costa Battalion Chief Bob Atlas, and Pinole Firefighter Chris Baker on how to prepare for promotion and ensure that you're providing the right safety leadership for your crew. Each of the guests have a unique background and offer a varied perspective on how to prepare for a position of leadership, and they're going to offer their best advice on how to be a great company officer. And they'll talk about the need for having a mentor, the importance of being the designated adult in the firehouse, the value of continual learning even if the department won't pay for it, how to prepare for promotion, and more. So without any further delay, let's jump into our interview. Hi, we're coming to you today from San Diego, California. We're attending Firehouse World, and I had a chance to sit down with three gentlemen who are passionate about improving firefighter safety and helping firefighters who are aspiring to be firefighters get their entry into the fire business, help those who are firefighters get promoted into leadership positions, and help those who are in leadership positions get promoted to higher level leadership positions. And that's the topic that the three of you are going to be advancing here at Firehouse World. And I want to welcome you and thank you for taking some time to sit down with me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Let's start out by just talking about some of the things that should be on the mind of a firefighter as they're thinking about promotion. I mean, hopefully nobody just wakes up one morning and says, oh, the test got posted on the board today. I think I'll apply and see how I do on the test next month. That there is a process that they should be going through to prep themselves to be ready. Let's talk about some of those things.
Well, I'll start out. One of the things I think I'm a big proponent of, I think that probably you guys will probably agree with, as many others, that when you prepare for promotion, don't just prepare for the test, prepare for the position that you aspire to. So if you aspire to the position of, say, company officer or chief officer, put yourself in that position every day, think like that position, act like that position, and be that position. Don't just figure out how to prepare for that written test, pass the assessment center. What that means to me in the bigger picture is going from that task level mentality to more of that tactical level mentality, or even higher strategic level. And that is very challenging, as you know, we've heard about the buddy to boss syndrome, where people struggle going from the buddy to the boss as the supervisor. And at that point, it can be very tough, because when you're a firefighter, no disrespect meant to any firefighter, you focus on fun, you focus on getting the wet stuff and the red stuff, and sometimes safety takes a back seat, not maybe on purpose, but just by accident or by choice or design. Whereas now a company officer, you've got to really take that 10,000 foot view of, I've got to make sure that my brothers and sisters go home every day, and that's a different set of viewpoints you have to have when you go into it. I mean, you pull up to that fully involved structure, trying to quickly decide, is that a body recovery or a rescue? Maybe as a firefighter, you would have said, hey, there's a rescue involved, let's go in. You know, I've got fire and smoke out of every orifice in that building. Now as a company officer, you've got to think safety and say maybe, you know what, fire and smoke out of every orifice, that can't be a rescue. That's a body recovery. So you know what, we're going to draw the line in the sand because of whatever maybe our staffing is or lack thereof, or our resources, and we're going to take it from the outside, where you may have to deal now with your firefighters that are going, why are we not going inside? This is what we do. So I think one of the biggest things I want to start out with is just being that designated adult, to be able to say no when appropriate, and also be able to think safety, you know, whether it's that or whether it's getting to the call and having to tell your crew, hey, slow down. But someone's not breathing, but there's this, I know that, slow down, let's get there safely. So I think taking that bigger picture view is probably one of the biggest challenges in my experience to try to get that message across.
I'm sorry to say it, but when you were talking, Steve, what I was envisioning was, in my personal life, when I made the transition from being single to married, and then from married to having children, how my view of responsibility and accountability completely changed to a whole different perspective. And I think that this shift is what you're describing, is that you know, you go from just fun and frolicking and to being accountable for everyone's on your crew a behavior and an outcome. You own it as the supervisor.
Well, Rich, you mentioned earlier when you first started about the firefighter not waking up one morning and thinking that today I want to be a fire officer, and then tomorrow they became one. It becomes a process. It becomes not something necessarily that you have to know when you get finished with recruit school, but it is something that takes time to prepare for. Just like becoming a parent takes time to prepare for. Just like making the decision to get married takes time to prepare for. Nobody does those things overnight. So there's a lot of preparation involved. And in that preparation, you have to focus not just on how do you get the task at hand completed, how do you train your firefighter, and how do you work for your engineer. But as a company officer, you're in a servant leadership role. And servant leadership is a responsibility that you can't take lightly. And the most important thing, and we talk about this all the time, is making sure we get our guys home safely. The National Fire Academy has done a lot of transitions and a lot of courses on that. But the reality of it is, you are, as Steve said, you are that adult. You're responsible for them, and you're not just responsible from them, from the beginning of the shift to the end of the shift. You're responsible when they go home. What are they taking home with them? What kind of mental messages are they leaving the firehouse with when they get home the next day? Are they safe enough to drive home? Did they run into something where they need some critical incident stress debriefing? So safety is not just something that comes on the fire ground, but safety becomes something that becomes not just an attitude, but it becomes a way of life and an existence. Yeah. And if you have that commitment, then as an aspiring company officer or an aspiring chief officer, when you realize that your job doesn't begin and end with shift time, your job is a 24-hour day, 7-day task, it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah. Now, Bob, you said it's a process to make the transition from firefighter to officer, and it takes a while. Is there a roadmap? Is there where does that firefighter who's saying, when I get promoted, I want to be ready because I want to do good and I want to keep people safe and I want to have the confidence that I know what I needed to know and I did everything to lay the foundation right. Where do they learn about this stuff that they need to know? I mean, is there a checklist, or do you guys have stuff on your website, or is this something you teach in your classes? I mean, here I am, I'm a firefighter with 3 years. And I'm thinking, okay, in 5 years I'm going to have 8 years, and I'm going to have enough fire experience. But have I prepped myself and done the right things to sit in that right seat and not mess it up?
Well, you made a good point. Say, what's the process? I think anybody that'll tell you as they've risen through the ranks will tell you that the process is different for everybody. The learning experiences they go through. First and foremost, I can't say enough about programs like Firehouse and programs like the National Fire Academy and programs like yours, where you want to establish what I consider to be the all-star team in the fire service. You pick a little bit that's good from each individual person. You find out what's going to fit your personality. And there are many websites out there that contain a tremendous amount of information. And you can spend hours and hours and hours sifting through and trying to figure out what's right. And you do need to do a certain amount of that. There is some legwork and some grunt work, but you won't become good unless you start to realize that you got to go through that. You got to put your time in. I was sharing with Chris earlier, in the day about putting your time in order to be ready for that. You have to put your time in. And that means sometimes reading hundreds of pages of material that may or may not contain information that's valuable to you. But at least after you've gotten through that 100 pages, you've realized, I don't need that information anymore. So you have to search out. And the second best thing you can do is seek good mentors. Seek good counsel. I think people are a shadow of the books they read, the audio files they listen to, the video files they watch, the websites that they search. That's what you become. You become a product of all that. So you are, in effect, from the day you come into the fire service, building your all-star team of who and what you want to prepare to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you're at the firefighter level. We didn't have this conversation in advance, so I might really be putting you on the spot when I say this. But what I'm going to say is, I think that maybe what I know from having met you and talked with you, that you're aspiring to someday take your career to another level. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
And what are you doing having now walking in the shoes of a firefighter, and the audience out there are firefighters listening, what are you doing that they can learn from on the things that how you're preparing yourself to take that right front seat position?
Well, thank you, Rich. I have to echo what Bob mentioned as far as having good mentors, having good role models, having good examples to follow, watching from the backseat, from from the firefighter position, and seeing what an example of a good leader is and what they exhibit. You can be responsible from any position for safety. You don't need to have a rank or title. Everyone's a safety officer. So when you're on an incident and you're seeing the bad things as they come, you can have the personal leadership to speak up and to share those things with your companies, with your fellow firefighters, your officers, and share that information. So you're watching from the shadows. You're watching all of that process, and you're preparing that one day is going to come where you're going to have to make that transition from that firefighter role to that company officer role. I definitely have to echo what Bob said, and you have to put your time in grade. You have to get the experience. You have to attend classes. It's good to know what's going on right now with the UL and NIST studies, and it's good to go to the training symposiums, Fresno training, and it's good to go to Firehouse World and FDIC and see what the current culture is involved with firefighter safety. Once you're able to kind of get that picture and you're able to see, okay, now I'm going to make the transition from task-oriented firefighter to a first-in company officer, you want to be ready for that position. You want to be accountable to your people. You want to be accountable to their families. You want to make sure that at the end of shift, everyone goes home and goes home safely to their families. It's very important that after a critical incident that you check on your guys and you make sure that they're okay. It's important to follow that firefighter through that process and to make sure that they have the proper training and they have the proper resources that are available for them. I also believe that it's the preparation. You prepare as the company officer to train your guys to make sure that they're going to be safe, that you go over the UL NIST reports, you go over the NIOSH reports, you go over blue sheets and green sheets, you talk about close calls. Any of those events can happen to anybody at any time, and I believe the best way to prepare is to communicate with your crew, and you can see the bad things coming before they actually occur.
Ah, that's my tagline. you get bonus points on that one, Chris. What would you guys say if there's a firefighter out there who would aspire to advance in his position, her position, but they would say, well, my department won't send me to Firehouse World, or my fire department won't send me here, or my fire department won't pay for me to take a college class. Does that mean they shouldn't do it, or is that just a big fat excuse?
Well, neither. At the end of the day, there's many fire departments that don't support their personnel, good, bad, or indifferent. But at the end of the day, it's your career development. I think that's the challenging part I've seen with a lot of people is some people do draw the line in the sand and they say, well, if the department's not going to send me, to heck with them, I'll show them, when you're really only showing yourself. So I was fortunate that when I first started out, our department has a decent tuition reimbursement program. Nothing like it's at today. We have a really robust one right now, but beforehand, a lot of people I worked with was, well, they don't cover all this, so I'm not going to do it. And it's like, wait a second, I'm not going to live my life that way, because I learned very quickly through my mentors that I got to take charge of my career development, which means, yeah, I may get some reimbursed. I may have to put a lot of money out on the table myself to miss out on overtime opportunities, to travel, to spend tuition money for classes. But I'm going to benefit in the end, as will the department. But it still seems like there's a lot of folks that don't want to put their money where their mouth is. Then they blame the department, blame others, versus no. We're all in charge of our own destiny. So if it means you have to pay for stuff to get ahead, find out how to make that happen. Whether it's maybe you have to work overtime, maybe you have to sacrifice a little bit. Hopefully you have a supportive spouse, supportive family that allows you to do those things. But it's necessary.
What would you think about someone that says, well, I can't get time off to... I can't get 3 days off or 4 days off to go to Firehouse World. Would you say, well, then take a vacation? use your vacation time. If you're that serious about prepping yourself for advancement, then you have to make some personal sacrifices and personal commitment and not expect your department to provide it all for you. In other words, a lot of, as I've talked to you guys, I think a lot of our career advancement came at the expense of some very personal sacrifices that we were willing to give, knowing in the long run the payoff is there.
Absolutely. You know, what's interesting is, and I think this is true whether you've played sports or whether you were successful at anything in the past, winners find a way to win. Successful people find a way to be successful. Whether it's their own dime, borrowing money, working a second job, taking a vacation day. When you think about the dollars for hours swap, let's say you take a vacation day and it costs you a day out of your vacation bank and you're giving up X number of dollars. If you cost that out over time and you get promoted because you took the time off, then the amount of money and your difference in salary was way overcompensates you for the couple of days that you had to take off. And let's be frank, these events that occur, Firehouse World, FDIC, wherever you're ending up in any of these mixes, magic actually happens at these kind of events because we are all plucked out of our normal routine, brought into an environment and allowed to spend time around successful people in the field for periods of time where we never would be able to do this. And all we do is spend the next 2, 3, 4 days and all we talk about is being a firefighter. Whether you're a fire officer, a company officer, a chief officer, a good firefighter, a good driver, whatever it is, that's what we spend the time doing. And for 1 week, out of the year, that's all we worry about. And that's when real learning occurs because you get the repetition at events like this. You get the repetition when you go to a class for a week because it's over and over and over again. And I believe me, I agree, and I love the 20-minute excerpts. I love the short events because you can get those, a lot of them in a very short period of time, short bursts. But when you put yourself in a position to be around people that have what you want and you get to learn from them, winners find a way to win. And that's all there is to it. So it will take sacrifice. And I mean, frankly, is that sacrifice worth it? Yeah, when you're on the fire ground and you're thinking about the safety of your crew and the crews that you're responsible for, you're going to look back on that day and you're going to say, wow, I sure am glad I took that class that taught me that information. And had I not made the sacrifice of taking a day off from work, I got a shift trade, or taking a vacation day, I never would have got that information. Let me tell you, being there in personal experience, it's really uncomfortable being in a situation where you're kind of not sure about what you're about to do. And it's really nice feeling to know that you've been there before, even if it's just in a training environment.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Maybe not so much for you, Chris, because you're at the firefighter position, but Steve, when you and Bob, when you got promoted to your very first supervisory position, from firefighter to that first level, whatever that rank was, were you prepared?
I'll answer for myself to start out with. I was prepared as good as I could have been. Could I have been prepared more? Of course. I did what I could, I think, to get myself prepared because I was fortunate that when I got hired as a firefighter, I knew I wanted to be a fire officer at some point. So it's not just 3, 4, 10 years into my career where it's like, I'm going to throw my name in the hat, take the test, which some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was constantly focusing my preparation for that, trying to be a good firefighter in the process, but trying to focus on that. So during that course of 5 years or so when I was working as a firefighter, I was trying to take classes, educate myself, learn from others out there, do a lot of things like Bob talked about, learn from each person out there, preparing myself for that first day, for that first strip mall fire, that first high-rise fire, that first personnel issue. Was I going to be perfect? Oh, heck no. But I was trying my best to put myself, and that's why I really preach to people, is try to manage that fire before you even have to fight it. Try to manage that personnel issue before it even happens. You see something happen where, firefighter drunk in the firehouse, some people may joke about it. I'd rather look at it like, okay, let's have a scenario. How would you handle that if you got that? What would you do? Now, the situations may not be the same when you get there, but I think I had a lot of that mental process already thought out. Did it make me perfect? By all means, no. I mean, I had my own trials and tribulations and, didn't do anything bad that I'm aware of, but I was prepared about as good as I could have been based on all the stuff preparation-wise that I had done.
Did you have mentors guiding you along the process, Steve, or were you just kind of trial and erroring this along? And
as many mentors as I can get my hands on. I was very fortunate that I tried to get involved with a lot of different things, and we had some good officers within our department, but being involved in a lot of other things on duty and off duty, on committees, for example, gave me the opportunity to now network with fire service professionals of all ranks from other agencies, and I tried to take advantage of as many of those folks as I could. So when it came time preparing, getting a chance to sit down with them for coffee or for lunch and saying, okay, what are your thoughts? What are your suggestions? What are your lessons learned? And I think that really helped me take a little bit from each person to try to see what I could do. Would I have done anything differently? Not that I can think of. There's a lot I obviously learned once I got promoted, and I'm still learning today, but I think it helped me by trying to reach out to different people and realize at the end of the day, at first it was scary when you, oh my God, that's so-and-so, that chief so-and-so, that's the guy on the cover of Firehouse magazine, fire training this month, and then after a while it's like, no, he or she puts their pants on just like I do. They're all human beings, and most of them are all very easy to talk with and happy to share information with you. So I think that was the biggest hurdle I got over, is to try to network, and to this day I think it's been very beneficial to try to soak what I can from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Bob, were you ready the first time you sat in that right front seat?
That's a loaded question, and I appreciate you asking that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to know the answer. And I'll start off by saying Steve made a really good point about professionalism. And so when you look at kind of what professionalism is, I equate it to green and growing, red and rotting. If you're ripe, then and you're not paying attention, then you're not absorbing the newest, the latest, and greatest, and you're not capable and in a position to be able to learn from that. When you're green and you're growing and you're learning, you are a professional, because you're constantly seeking out. I had a great mentor in our previous fire chief, Darryl Lauder from Fairfax, and he said, and he ingrained in us the concept of being a lifelong learner. And what is a true professional? A true professional is somebody that works on his craft every single day. You look at sports, and you look at athletes, and you think to some of those guys, you ask them, wow, gee, how did you get to be so good? Well, a baseball player plays 160-something games a year. He learns a lot during the season. He learns a lot in the off season, but how does he get to be a professional? Right. He's in game situations. So the answer to your question, Rich, about, did I feel prepared? I felt I was at a point where I was capable. Was I prepared for the first fire? I like to think so. But in retrospect, as I look back on it, there were some things that occurred during that fire that I was not prepared for. That no matter how many simulations you run, no matter how many tactical, opportunities you have, no matter how many times you're an acting captain, until they put the bugles on your collar and they tell you that you're now in charge, things don't really change all that much. And when you realize that it's permanent, then you're in a situation to where it becomes, important to you, sometimes in a life or death situation. So I'd like to think that you can prepare really well. As Steve said, I'd echo his sentiments. Can you prepare for everything? Oh no, absolutely not. And that's the great dichotomy of the fire service is every day you go to work, you could be your biggest fire. We joke about that all the time. We say, hey, see you later, see you on the big one. I think that you could talk to just about anybody in the fire service today and say they've never seen the big one. I don't think the big one ever comes as big as we've seen them in recent past. The big one is different for each individual. So are you ever really prepared? In some ways you are, and in some ways you aren't.
Chris, do you ride up? Do you get the chance to ride up into the officer position currently?
I have in other departments, and I've had the opportunity to ride up and be the officer, and that's one of the best things that I was able to do. Like what Steve mentioned was take classes, and I completed my fire officer certificate. It took me approximately about 3 years to complete all the classes. I used my vacation time. I paid my own way. I didn't have a department that actually paid for that training. I made the investment in myself because I knew at one point in time, succession planning, that I was going to be selected to be the future fire officer. So I knew from an early point in my fire service career that those that have leadership potential, they're going to assume those positions in the future. And as the officers that are going to be retiring, we have to pass the baton, and we really have to think about progression. And so I knew at a very early time that this is what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be a company officer, and took the classes, did the training, focused on my AS degree and Fire Service Command Company Officer. And the training just didn't stop there. The training has been ongoing, constantly taking classes, finding out what's going on right now, the pulse in the fire service, so that way when the opportunity does arise, that I am ready and I'm prepared. And I have to echo what Bob mentioned. You always will learn something from every incident. You're a lifelong learner. You're a person in process. And each incident, every time that you have an incident, you have to have some takeaways. You have to have things that you can learn and you can look back at and grow from that incident to become a better, not just a good officer, but a great officer. You have to improve, and you have to make that investment in yourself. And that investment is going to pay dividends on the people that you supervise. And them being able to go home safely to their families is the example of you being that great officer.
Mm-hmm.
Good perspective. Well, if you don't mind tagging on to what Chris was saying there, I think that's the challenging part that we all have is, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think I was truly as prepared as I could be. I tried as good as I could, but we all have to take the bull by the horns and be responsible for our own career development because we can't wait for others. Because I know I hear a lot of people complain sometimes, my department doesn't do this, they don't put me through this, and so I'm not going to take the time off, I'm not going to spend the money, but we have to be, like Bob said, lifelong learners because our personnel, deserve the best. And it's very sobering when you get pinned that first badge as a first line supervisor and when you realize all the responsibility that falls in your lap. And I am so happy that when I started taking classes, preparing myself, that I did things at a younger age, because what happens in my experience I've seen is that a lot of people may be on the job for 10, 15, 20 years as a firefighter, which is good, and then say, you know what, I'm going to become a captain here, or I'm going to become a lieutenant, or whatever it is. And then they do a little bit maybe of the training to get ready for that, maybe fire officer certification. But then a lot of them go, oh, well, I'll do the rest when I get promoted and everything else. It's like, well, you don't realize the benefit of having that stuff done before promotion, first of all, is to help you better when you make the transition. But number two, there's a heck of a lot more you now need to get involved with. I mean, start working on your other stuff. It's like training's only started now, because it's like if you think it's just this little chunk and I'm done, it's like, no, you're just scratching the surface. You need to get that done quick. Not in a fast motion so you don't learn something from it, but get it done because there's always going to be something that comes along, as there should be if you want to be.
The older you get, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly.
I only knew then what I knew now.
You guys are all kind of affiliated together with this organization, Fire Alumni. So what is the mission of Fire Alumni? What do you exist to do? What are you trying to accomplish in the world?
Well, originally a number of years ago, our one of our other partners, Brian Helmick and myself, and our third partner, Junon Cherry, sat down, and we saw a trend in the fire service that there was a lot of leadership that was leaving the fire service, and that was going to create a vacuum. And I think that it's undeniable that we're currently facing a great leadership vacuum in the fire service. Enhanced retirement benefits have come forward. Wherever you are in the country, that seems to be the thing that's causing people to make a mass exodus out of the fire service. And we noticed that there was this leadership vacuum. So we created Fire Alumni with the vision of revolutionizing the way that the fire service learned its information. When you throw in new technologies, whether that technology be tablet command, whether that technology be using an iPad or some type of tablet in your vehicle. And I mean, let's face it, right now everybody has some type of mobile data device in their vehicle. We even have firefighters on our job right now that get us directions to the incident using Google Maps on their own iPhone. I mean, we're going to find a way to get better. What we found was that we needed to find a landing zone, a place for people to go to get that information. So when we created Fire Alumni, it was created with the idea in mind that there's a great many people out there in the fire service that have a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. And we wanted to create a hub where that knowledge and experience could come and reside, whether it be Chief Prziborowski and his information, or Chief Lepore and his information, or you and your information, a place where that information can go so that new and up-and-coming leader in the fire service, or frankly, just that fire service leader that exists that wants to be better, can go to a single location and get as much information as they possibly can. Because when you look at corporate America and you look outside the fire service and you see the way that information is being delivered and people are learning, go to your local community college, go to your local school, ask your children how are they learning. My 14-year-old son does all of his math homework on a computer. They don't hand him paper anymore. There's classes where they give you an iPad at the beginning of the semester, and that's where you'll do all your stuff, and the teacher won't take a piece of paper and a turned-in assignment. The world in which we live in right now and how we learn is changing. We're learning in 3-second bursts on the TV. We watch the TV and we go, I learned in 3 seconds everything I need to know, shut the TV off and on to the next thing. And especially this next generation, they've developed this attitude of, I got to get it fast, I got to get it quick. Microwave ovens, fast food, 1 hour dry cleaners. We want it all and we want it all now. And the baby boomer generation changed that. We're the tail edge of the baby boomers, and we changed that. And then the next generation came along, and they changed the way they learn. And when you look at those generations that came after us, if we don't teach them in the environment that they're used to living in, then our message is as good as dead. And so we wanted to create an environment where that message could be delivered in a way that they were learning. And we talked earlier about, giving people what they want, sprinkled with what they need. And that's, I think, how, the future of the fire service is going to be perpetuated. Great events like this where they can come and watch they can walk the show floor and see the fancy, shiny fire engines and look at the latest and greatest gadgets, but then they can get into a classroom and learn the nitty-gritty on what the tactics are to pull and advance a hose line and, rooftop operations and how to be a good leader and what's important. These places are the genesis of that, and we wanted to also be able to have something to drive people to big events, because like I said earlier, magic happens at big events.
What do you guys want to add to that as far as the mission or the vision or what you're trying to accomplish or what you see as the passion that you bring to the fire alumni?
Well, with fire alumni, the message is bringing the experts to the students and the students to the experts. So you're creating this hub, as Bob mentioned, to bring in experts like Chief Prziborowski and bringing the students together, and you're creating dialogue. They're able to have a conversation. They're able to ask questions and get feedback. And with this generation, that the culture, the want it now, the drive-through generation, it's important to be able to provide them a forum where they can ask the experts and get the feedback and get the questions answered and foster the learning process. Because the way people are learning today is completely different than the way people were learning 30 years ago. With the way that we deliver training, Target Solutions and Blackboard and the different platforms that we're going to be using, the interface, the interactive training. A lot of departments are actually doing two-way interactive training for their quarterly EMS updates. So the whole way that we're delivering training is changing in the fire service, and the new culture, the new firefighters that are coming up through this process, the organization, Fire Alumni, is a great organization to bring those students to the experts and allow them the opportunity to learn from those experts, glean, and then hopefully be able to perpetuate that process and then be able to groom those future leaders in the fire service to take over when the time's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say what it sort of enthused me or excited me about getting involved with Fire Alumni was just sort of like a little bit of what Bob and Chris both said, but the one-stop shopping aspect, in the sense that you have access to a lot of different people, a lot of different resources and everything else. Because when I was testing to become a firefighter, 20 years ago, give or take, short of going to the community college to get your 2-year degree in fire technology, there really was not a lot of resources out there, short of our instructors at the college and whoever we met by stopping by fire stations and randomly had a chance opportunity with. So the part that excites me is just the chance to have so many different resources and different capacities to learn from, because at the end of the day, you put 100 students in a room or 10 students in a room, they're not going to maybe agree with every one of us, and every message that each one of us has may not resonate or work well because of each person's situation. But by providing a variety of different viewpoints, that student, obviously starting out their career, has a chance to take a little bit from each one of us to maybe build their own action plan, but also sort of get their feet wet and realize all the different opportunities they have out there for them, not just now, but as time goes by in the future. Because there really isn't, at least in my experience, and I don't know if you have found the same thing out too, Bob or Chris, but there really wasn't a lot of entry-level firefighter preparation resources out there. I mean, short of a book here and there, maybe a video from somebody or whatever else, but I think it was just sort of also a good untapped market that is really hungry for information. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's sort of in a nutshell what really excites me about getting involved and continuing doing what I'm doing to help share whatever positive messages I can.
What are you guys teaching this week? If somebody is listening that didn't get a chance to come to Firehouse World, we want to give them a little teaser about what they missed. What's the I know there are multiple classes, so what are the messages that are, or the themes of the messages that are being shared out this week?
Well, I think the biggest thing, the future firefighter experience that we're focusing on tomorrow, really is a baby that started about 3 years ago. Back at Firehouse Expo Baltimore, myself, Ed Nichols with Firehouse, and a few others were talking about, how do we try to recruit more people to get into Firehouse? Because who's the people that need to attend this type of conference? Well, the firefighters. And the last thing you want to do is get them when they're 10, 20, 30 years in their career, try to start them out young. So with Harvey Eisner's support, we looked at trying to provide a program. So a couple of years ago, I started the Future Firefighter Experience. We're just trying to see what we can get by offering some free access into the expo hall, as well as some free information on getting hired as a firefighter. So it's really morphed and grown very well over the last couple of years. And this year, partnering with the fire alumni, Bob Atlas and Judon Cherry, as well as Chris Baker here, being able to take it to the next level, because I think there's so much passion and enthusiasm we have to offer. So really the Future Firefighter Experience, while we only maybe have 2 90-minute sessions, we want to make the 90 minutes of each session very valuable. One of them will be how to master the fire service testing process, to try to give key nuggets about what to expect when you're getting hired as a firefighter, and then try to give another session on really what to expect and how to be the best firefighter candidate you can be in the year 2015 and beyond. Trying to give some key nuggets for success of how do you set yourself up for success, preparing for the position, what to do, what not to do. Again, just our opinions, but we bring some opinions from different departments and our own different experiences that I think can be a good positive message to really hit home with a lot of these, I say kids because a lot of them are kids maybe 18, 19 years old, as well as young adults that will probably be into their 20s and 30s as well too, but hopefully provide that motivation, inspiration, spark that'll really help them take this to the next level. Because I can't speak for you guys, but it took me 4.5 years to become a full-time firefighter. I took a lot of tests around the Bay Area. There's a lot of rejection, and a lot of people give up. But the only thing that kept me going was my passion, my drive to continue, and also the rejection helped kept me going too. But my hope is to hopefully share our passion and inspiration with others to be able to hopefully realize, hey, this isn't easy, but it can be done, and look at all the positive benefits of being involved in the fire service. We can make it happen. So that's what I have to offer on that. And so what resources do you guys have available to somebody who's listening and saying, I'd like to learn more about this topic, how to prep? Is there books? Is there videos? Is there websites? Is there online programs? How does the listener engage or dare I say, buy something from you? Everybody wants it for free, but we know in this world that some of the best stuff isn't free. It's things that we pay to get that expert knowledge. What do you guys have available for the listener?
Well, we just completed a great DVD, which is now available, which we'll have here at the conference, and also available on our website at firealumni.com. We've diced it up into a digital format, and that was a class that we prepared. Chief Prziborowski did a great topic called 25 Reasons to Hire You in the Fire Service. It's phenomenal information. Steve's a very modest guy, and that's one of the things I appreciate him about the most. But his message is very clear, very concise, and very important to that up-and-coming candidate. But I will tell you that no matter what information comes out for the entry-level candidate, that information rings true for a promotional candidate. It's all about the preparation. You can't be successful at anything you do unless you take the time to prepare yourself. So whether it's preparing for a career as a firefighter, going to our website, going to Code 3 Fire Training for great information that Steve provides, or his website at Chabot College, and there's a lot of stuff out there. we pride ourselves on producing a great product with our graphic artist system that we have and our video system that we have to be able to provide something that's what we would consider to be edutainment. There's information included in there that's an educational component, but we want to make it entertaining enough for people to be wanting to listen to it, because it's very important. There's great pieces of information in the 25 reasons that Steve just created that if we just do a dry whiteboard presentation, nobody's ever going to get that information. So we figured out how to turn that into not just an educational component, but a component that entertains you, so you can keep that information and retain that information for a long time. We've created a video with Stacy Bell, the Vice President of FPSI. FPSI creates the written exams and promotional examination for the fire departments. Stacy did a fantastic job talking with the candidates on how to prepare for a written exam. Not what the answers are, because look, let's face it, any monkey can learn the answers and regurgitate them on a test. But it's not the answer that makes the difference in where you succeed and fail in the process. It's what you do with the information. It's how you can communicate the answer. So Stacy does a great job at going through all the dimensions of the entry-level written examination process. We partnered with Chief Paul Lepore out of Redondo Beach to do a program that is very similar to a Smoke Your Firefighter interview program. Our second DVD will be finalized at the end of the month. It'll be up and available as a digital format. And again, these are just the methodologies. These are just the delivery systems that we have available. Our stuff's available through Udemy. It will be available here very shortly through our Kajabi off of our own website, and then through Amazon. So, we're trying to use as many channels as we possibly can to get the information out, because it's not about holding the message. Today in the American business world, there's a program called the Open Source Program. Some of our listeners might be familiar with it. All this is open source information. The world is a very different place. Nobody owns the information that they've done. It's just information that has come and gleaned from other places and repackaged. And so we can't own the information. What we can own is the way that we deliver it. And so, you've got great messages on your situational awareness matters program that is just great information that needs to be taught. So whether it's you teaching it or Steve teaching it or somebody else teaching it, we've all agreed that it's the information getting out there that's the most important topic, not who owns it. Nobody owns the word "and."
Well, and if I can add, in addition to the great stuff that Fire Alumni has put together on their website, my website, like Bob mentioned, Code 3 Fire Training, is my promotional preparation website, and then Chabot Fire, which is CHABOT Fire.com, is the entry-level preparation website, because I also teach at Chabot College up in Hayward near Oakland, and I run their entry-level firefighter website, so I put a lot of free information on there. I mean, to me, it's all no reason not to hide and not share this information. So there's a lot of great free information on how to become a firefighter, as well as my website on how to get promoted. Also recently published a couple books, 2 entry-level preparation books, how to reach for the firefighter badge, and then also the Future Firefighters Preparation Guide, both that are available off my websites, as well as off of firealumni.com, as well as Amazon, and available in ebook format or softcover on iTunes or every other platform as well too, because over the last 20 years there's been so many collections that I've had, notes, index cards, that I finally wanted to put them together, at least to share the message, good, bad, or indifferent, and that hopefully some people can benefit by. And I also published a promotional preparation book, How to Excel at Fire Department Promotional Exams. That's also available ebook, softcover format as well. Just stuff I've collected, all open source information, but packaged with my own flavor that hopefully some can benefit by, and thankfully I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it, so it reinforces that, it's decent information, at least for some to benefit by. So, and again, when I was becoming a firefighter, getting ready to get promoted to captain, battalion chief, I did the best I could to scour the internet was a great tool. I wish I had that when I was getting hired as a firefighter.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Getting promoted was helpful, but at least getting promoted, it was, searching for as many of the different books that I could get, not just on passing the test. And my book really doesn't teach you how to pass the test as much as how to be the best you can be and prepare for the position, but trying to just soak out all those mentors, soak out all those resources, and just take a little bit from each of them, and then package up who I should be, in my own opinion, good, bad, or indifferent. So that's some of the things I think we have to offer that are, can benefit a lot of different levels of folks out there, regardless of their experience level or regardless of their aspirations.
Okay. Well, we're running short on time, so what I want to do is just kind of go around the room and give each of you the opportunity to give your one single best piece of advice to somebody aspiring to advance themselves into a company officer role in their organization, is what you would think would be the golden nugget takeaway. I'll start, so I'll give you guys a minute to gather your thoughts, because I don't think you knew that I was necessarily going to throw this question in at you. So
thank you, Rich.
So I was sitting here thinking about my answer before I
Hey, let's
told
figure
you
it
guys
out.
what the
If you
question.
want to be, I'll tell you this: if you want to be a really good company officer, you better learn how to think on your feet.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good one. Good one.
But that's so true.
Yeah, I would say, and it kind of builds on something you said earlier, Steve, and that is mentorship. Seek out the counsel and advice and support and nurturing of the most successful people you can find. And tying to something you said earlier, Chris, that's not, in the ideal world, that would be the company officer you're working for now. But it isn't always the case that that's who it's going to be, because out there in the world, there are some dinks serving as company officers. Sorry, all the dinks I just
outed.
They're not listening to the show anyhow. So
If you feel guilty about it, so sorry.
yeah, they're not listening anyhow. But the victims of the dinks are listening. So it's not necessarily going to be your company officer. Maybe even somebody inside your organization, if you're dealing with an organization that has bad leadership and flawed cultures and stuff. But going out of your way to find those people who can inspire you, who can guide you, who can mentor you, who can coach you, and give you that encouragement when you're down, and when you don't get that first exam and get the promotion, that they can continue to keep you focused and on track. So my takeaway message is the value of mentorship and proactively seeking mentors and making yourself the kind of mentee that a mentor wants to be attached to. That's my takeaway. And any of you guys can jump in.
Well, I think for me, if I was to have a takeaway, my takeaway would be to give back. You're always going to give more than you're going to receive, and you always want to help the next person that's coming along. And this is the best job in the world. This is a dream job. And now that I've earned this position, I want to help the next person receive this position. So my takeaway would be to give, be a go-giver, and know the position above you and below you. Always stay hungry, never be satisfied. Always strive to improve, and make it your mission that you're going to be that officer, and you're going to be that level to where your crew can look up to, and that your position, that your job.
I like it. It wasn't go-getter, it was go-giver. You used that term on purpose. I haven't heard that before. So why did you choose that word, that phrase?
Because as an officer, you're giving. You're giving yourself. You're giving to your guys and gals. You're building them up. You're to be a good leader. You also have to have good followers. And Chief Frank Facuzio, with Step Up and Lead and all of his leadership, you can lead from any position. So you need to teach your firefighters to be good leaders. And if you give of yourself and help them improve, then that's the example that I want as a leader.
Good.
Okay. Well, good stuff, Chris. As much as I could talk about a lot of different things right now, go figure. The one thing I want to hit on is being the designated adult, because I think, the buddy to boss syndrome, so many company officers, for example, tend to want to stay at the buddy level. And I get it. We've all been there. And we all want to be liked. It's nice to be liked. Hopefully you're being liked for the right reasons, though, and that's the challenging part. But you look at a lot of disciplinary issues, and thankfully most departments, 90% plus of the department personnel do their job every day, come to work, don't get in trouble. It's usually the 5 to 10%ers that usually cause us all the most problems. The challenge that I've seen in the common denominator is you see on a daily basis around the country, you can go to any website, firehouse.com, fireengineering.com, dailydispatch.com, firefighter close calls, whatever. We see a lot of, how do I say this, stupid stuff going on in the fire service, maybe inappropriate behavior, unethical behavior while on duty. You know, sex in the firehouse, prostitutes in the firehouse, drinking on duty. You know, firefighter blows a red light and, you know, tags a Suburban, kills 3 people. We see a lot of these things, and these things are not tied to one department. I mean, pretty much every department is going through some issue like this across the country. Where's the common denominator? I mean, if you really break it down, who's usually in charge of a firehouse? It's a company officer in most departments. And when you hear stories like some of these inappropriate behaviors that go on, firefighter arrested, firefighter does this, where was their designated adult? Where was their company officer? The problem is I think too many company officers think that they're like their best friends because they don't want to piss off their crews. I get it. I didn't want to piss off my crews either. But it's a strange paradigm that in some of the disciplinary cases I've heard about or even experienced, a lot of times have the company officer actually done their job and recognized the signs and symptoms of what their firefighter was doing long in advance versus sticking their head in the sand or just going to their room, they might have saved that firefighter's career. I mean, you see a lot of cases where, you know, firefighter gets arrested for this, firefighter gets terminated for this. And you could say even captain gets terminated, captain gets fired, then I'll blame the battalion chief. But a lot of times I think officers don't have their finger on the checker of what's going on under their watch. And I'm not saying it's easy because you may have a big firehouse with a lot of people you have to supervise. You can't be everywhere at every moment, or your battalion chief supervising 10 or 20 stations. You hope you set good expectations. You hope you provide good leadership and, you know, values to your personnel, do the best. But I think being that designated adult, so, I mean, if you're a company officer or a chief officer, you're going to have to sometimes piss off your crews by saying no and actually saving them from themselves. I can't count the amount of times where I've had to say, you may hate me right now for doing this, but I'm okay with that. And I only say that because I'm trying to help save you from yourself or save you from your career or help maybe your family out because of what may have happened to you by me not stopping this. You know, a captain of mine, Tom Tornell, when I was a firefighter, I remember I tripped and sprained my ankle, and I'm humping around the firehouse, and he was the acting battalion chief, and he's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. As I'm hobbling around, he's like, get your butt in the back of the vehicle, you're going to the hospital. I don't want to go, I'm good, you know. And he's like, I don't care, you're on my time and my dime, your butt's going to the hospital. He was hating me for the rest of my life, I don't care. And I'm like, what a jerk. But then after it's soaked in and everything else, I'm going, wait a second, he's advocating for me, and at the end of the day, because think about it, we've all had those situations where we do something stupid or maybe we get injured. Just 5 more minutes, chief, 5 more minutes, we got it, or I'm good, I can handle this, like that football player that's ready to fall down. But you know what? Someone needs to be that parent that doesn't enable the person, but instead be the, you know what? Sorry. You're out of the game. We're moving on to the next substitute player, and I'm taking care of you in your best interest. And I remember a story that you told, Rich, that sort of paralleled that really reinforces the need of one time you were commanding a fire from the outside, one of the situations you had where you heard the 5 more minutes, and the individual seemed to not be happy with your decision to pull him out even though the building collapsed. And, you know, the sad part is it sounds like the individual didn't appreciate that, and I think we've all experienced that where something doesn't happen at all, oh, you just pulled us out, or it does happen, but that's okay, I'm good with that. I can sleep with myself if I maybe think that I helped save you to go home the next day. So a long-winded answer, but be the boss that may have to piss off people, hopefully in doses they can tolerate for the right reasons.
Good. You know, fortunately, we all have a lot more time, you know, left on this earth and a lot more time to share our message. And I appreciate what you guys said because it all rings true. And I think programs like this and what you're doing are critical, you know, to the success of any individual at all levels because they really get a chance to, you know, see that open source of information come out. You know, and what I would say, and I try and live it myself. Am I good at it? No. I'm okay, but I'm not perfect. My message is do your job and do what's right, always. And that's just very simple. So whether you get up in the morning and, you know, you're going to be at home and your dad or your mom and you're going to be with your kids, you know what that job is, you know, and do what's right all the time. You can never go wrong when you do what's right. And if you, and the second part of that is know what your why is. Know why you're doing that. Because that will always lead you. That'll be your guiding light that I think will lead you to always making that right decision and, in effect, doing your job and doing what's right. And if you know the why, then you'll figure out the how. and we share this with candidates all the time, whether it's a promotional candidate or not, is if you know the why, I promise you figure out the how. And if you just get up every morning trying to do a better job tomorrow or today than you did the day before, then you're succeeding every day. Because success isn't built on one moment in time. It's built on slow and steady increments of time. And that's how you win.
Good. Well, thanks, guys, for sitting with me. Believe it or not, we just burned through an hour of this conversation.
That was good fun.
I could sit here. I could just sit here all night and listen to you share your perspectives. But we do have to, have the podcast be a certain length, or people will send me hate mail and say your podcasts are too long. So thanks for being with me.
Thank you for having
us, Rich. Good times.
Well, that's it. Episode 41 is complete. Thank you to Santa Clara County Deputy Chief Steve Prziborowski, Contra Costa Battalion Chief Bob Atlas, and Pinole Firefighter Chris Baker for sharing your knowledge and experience with my audience today. Thank you to our sponsor, Midwest Fire, for your support. And thank you to our listeners for sharing with me some of your valuable time today. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to be interviewed on this show, visit the SA Matters website, click on the Contact Us link, and thank you in advance for sharing your lessons learned so others may live. If you like the show, go to iTunes or Stitcher and search for SA Matters Radio, SA Matters Radio, and subscribe to the podcast and leave your feedback. If you like the show, I'd sincerely appreciate you giving it a 5-star review as well. Not only will that motivate me to work harder, but it'll also help others to find the show. If you're inspired and want to learn more about situational awareness, please consider becoming a member of the community. It's free, and when you sign up, you get that special report that I mentioned, the 25 best practices for improving first responder safety. To claim your free gift, head over to the samatters.com website and click on the red box on the right side of the page. Be safe out there. And may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.